Congratulations, by the way.
On what? Omanyi mpangula nnyo, so first tell me which one
Kimani naye
specify.
for the podcast of the year.
Thanks for appreciating, and I also extend the thank yous to the people that voted, people that watch my
Yeah.
podcast, people that push me to go work harder. I appreciate that. I'm Bonnie Kibuka. On my podcast, the Ugandan Boy Talk Show, I've had an honor to sit down with some of the most incredible hearts and minds from Uganda, like Miss Uganda Oliver Nakakande, Joram Ozo Job, the Executive Director of Joram Model Management, Pastor Wilson Bugembe, and many, many more. On this podcast, you get to hear raw and real life stories of their journey, what they've been through, and the people that have inspired their journey so that they can make a difference in ours. Listen to the Ugandan Boy Talk Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Join the journey soon. Bashaba, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. How are you? You're the one supposed to ask me how are you. I'm the one supposed to ask you.
So the last time I had somebody ask me how are you, I told them,
Uh-huh.
"Mti eno podcast si yawe." So I was like, this is not your podcast, but I'm sure it was a share. I said, this is not your podcast, madam. So don't soak up into byange. Zaba ino kubuza. Kitegera.
Kanindeko mbuzi.
Abantu betuminkiriza nnyo mu bintu ebitali byabwe. But how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's been hard to get you to do this thing.
Yeah, I know. But we're finally here.
Finally here. I don't even know if the listeners will know I think it was back in August. And so the way my podcast works, I have people who recommend people to be on the podcast. So somebody recommended you to be on my podcast, and this is someone I went to school with in Mapea.
Wow.
Do you know what's her name? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna not Immaculate. Immaculate is her name. What's her name?
Pamela.
Huh? Pamela. Yeah, it was Pamela. So Pamela,
yes.
I went to school with her in Mapea. I think she was in a different class than I was. I think I was in a one class ahead of her. So she recommended you to be on the podcast. She's like, you should host that. But I'd also seen you. No, I'd not seen you, but when I hosted William on my podcast, he sent a shout out for all the photographers that he works with, and he mentioned your name. And I remember when I posted that clip, I was looking for the people he mentioned to tag them on the post, and then I found you, and that's how I got connected to you, and that's how you ended up on my podcast.
Wow, good to be here.
And then when I reached out to you, I was like, let's do it. Notandiko kumbuza. But how is life generally?
It's not bad. Life has been good. How about you?
Life has been good to me too. I can't complain. I love it. Podcast is doing well.
Congratulations, by the way.
On what? Omanyi mpangula nnyo, so first tell me which one specify.
For the podcast of the year.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for appreciating, and I also extend the thank yous to the people that voted, people that watch my podcast, people that push me to go work harder. I appreciate that, and I thank my guests too, because I bring you guys here, and then you share your stories, and then my listeners get to hear, they get entertained. On the other hand, they vote for me, and it gives me something to do. Singa, I'm not doing a podcast. Singa ati ndimo kuba bintu by'abantu, so it gives me something. Gives me something to do. But anyway, no, on a serious note, I appreciate that. I enjoy learning and getting better and seeing where this podcast will go. So
that's great.
Today on the podcast, I want to focus on your career, what you do today. And for the listeners who don't know, Bashaba is a female photographer in Uganda, I would say, do you specialize in a certain area of photography, or you do pretty much anything?
I not pretty much everything,
Okay.
but I mainly do documentary. If I'm venturing into events because of the people. Like when you're free and you tag along, as I get to meet William and Nyaika. I know you've hosted them before.
Yeah.
So I'm venturing into events. I pretty much do it for fun so far, but mainly documentaries and events like weddings, corporate shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it so far.
You
If
do.
I talk about events, that includes weddings, introductions, then even these small parties
Okay.
like baby shower, mainly maternity shoots.
Okay. So why didn't you go to Nyege Nyege?
Today I've been busy.
No. Okay. Because I remember I told you I'm going to bring this up because I found out you didn't go to Nyege Nyege and all your other people you
Yeah.
mentioned, they're there taking pictures.
Yes. I actually didn't go because I was at work. So
Okay. So you were making
I
money there.
actually thought I would make it yesterday, Saturday, and then return on Sunday today.
Okay.
But still, I got caught up because I could not, even though I return, if I was to return today, tomorrow I have to be at work. And it ends on Monday. So there was no I would go for 2 days. So I just gave up and hope for the one next year.
Let me ask you this question. If it wasn't for photography, would you see yourself
Mhm.
going to Nyege Nyege as just for entertainment? If you were not a
Yes,
photographer. Okay.
yes.
You like going out?
Why not?
I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
asking. Okay. Why is Okuwaga?
At times you just go for some events just to see what's there because you never know what's in stock for you. You
Yeah.
might meet your next client there.
Okay.
So you never know. At times you just have to put yourself out there.
That's true, and I like to do that. I like to socialize with people. You never know, opportunities find you there, but whenever you just keep to yourself, and nobody will find you. And I like the example you gave. So, how did you first develop the interest of photography? Like, when did you meet photography for the first time?
Mm. For the first time, I think it was around 2018. And I enjoyed actually being in front of the camera rather than being behind it. I used to have friends of mine who were studying journalism, so they had a camera with them, so I would tag along and then they would practice their work on me.
Okay.
Yes, so me starting out was taking photos on the phone and then maybe sharing them. And I remember the very first time it was a, a he's called Andrew Katende.
Okay.
By then he had won young I think it was Young Photographers Award or something in UPPA. That's when we started talking. So he introduced me in the photography business, the career itself. Yeah. So that's how I got to venture into it. Then started shooting. I would meet up with him and then he takes me through very many things. Then he will give me assignments. So that's how I started.
When you went to school in Uganda, because I bring this up every time I talk to somebody who did not do being a doctor, a pilot, what's it, engineer. When you went
Mm,
to school, is this something like you thought you were going to be doing, like photography, or and what did you study in school?
no. Actually, no, because in school, I have a bachelor's in procurement and logistics,
Okay.
and then I have a master's in accounting. So it's totally far away from photography. So it's mainly been friends and online
Yeah.
because everything is online. That's how I'm in photography now.
So I love talking to photographers, especially in Uganda, because when we're growing up, you
Mm.
remember those sayings, "Bana cameraman agenda kuja mwetegeke," you know, like.
Cameraman.
So I don't know if you ever met Sozi. No, not Sozi. Nathan Kutesa.
Like
He's a photographer.
Nathan, yeah,
Nathan
he's a
Kutesa.
friend of mine. I know him. Yeah.
I love actually one thing I will pass on before I talk what I was gonna say. I love that you photographers are keeping that connection, collaboration, and being together. it's not a competition, and I think William talked about that when he was here. It's not a competition. It's not
Yeah,
like the music career where nza singa, nze munene, nzani. I love that
exactly.
you guys are friends and you collaborate together. When you get a gig and you need somebody else, I'm sure you hit up somebody. Hey,
You
I have
call
this
them.
gig. Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw you with Buete. Buete is also a good friend of mine. I've not had him on the podcast, but the story about Buete,
I
I
should
met
actually
Buete on the
recommend him.
plane. Oh, watching Kuwade
Wow.
answer. I met him on the plane. I was coming to Detroit, Michigan, and they were on the flight with
Mm,
Babaluku. So they were sitting in front of me, and they were speaking Luganda. I'm like, who are these people speaking Luganda? We're going to America, to Detroit. I don't expect anybody to be in here. I mean, you expect, but I did not like expect or
yeah.
plan in it. And this dude in front speaking Luganda, I'm like, Muva Chali, Muva Kampala, and then we say connect. And that's how I met Bwete the first time, and it
Ate
was
gwe tetayogera Luzungu.
Bwete Tiger
Ate
Luzungu.
oyogera Luzungu akuzza mu Luganda.
This is going on Instagram. Can I get Instagram? I'll tag Bwete on there. But yeah, back to that. Like, I love the relationship that you guys have and supporting each other. So I had Nathan Kutesa on the podcast. Nathan tells me his journey. But back in the day, twabaitanga camera manager. How did your parents
Eh,
um take it when they found out was your mother school fees again? That's some accounting, but she's now camera woman or camera man.
I know it was actually tough to take in, but right now they appreciate it.
Okay.
The very, very first time it was hard. Now, according to me, I think they thought I'm venturing into photography to move. Banjagala nnyo okuzunga. So I think they thought if I have this camera, I'll be leaving home to go to different places. So they tried to make me not venture into it because they used to ask me, aha, kati ogenda kugenda ku mukolo obeere n'abasajja nga nabo bakutte kamera nga naawe okutte kamera mwana waffe banaakulaba batya.
You make a very good point. I was going to ask you a question about that because, again, growing up in Uganda, we look at it, but to wait on a cameraman. Cameraman was the name. It wasn't common
Yeah.
to find a woman doing photography. What are
Mm-hmm.
some of the challenges you've faced as a female photographer in Uganda and how you have overcome them, being a female in the field which is predominantly men or like known to be
Male.
for male? Yeah.
The challenge I've faced, like that you said, female photographers are few, so you have to put yourself out there. And the way I've tried to work on it is actually to put myself out there and make friends. There is room for everyone. You can't be in this thing alone. So if you make friends, those friends actually recommend you. And if you're good at it, they actually recommend you to bigger spaces.
Yeah.
And the industry has actually grown. Right now we are still few, but the numbers have increased in the industry for female photographers. There are quite actually many. It just depends on the something you want to do, because there are documentary photographers, there are those doing events, there are those doing studios. So it's actually big right now.
That is good. And the other thing I add to that is I don't feel like there's something that's mainly this is supposed to be for men. Like back
Exactly.
in the day, like
Exactly.
a woman can do what another
Exactly.
man does, and as long as you mentioned this, as long as you're doing a good work, there shouldn't be
Yeah.
anything like, and that's something I fight
Of
against.
course, people will trash talk.
Yeah,
People will compare themselves to you. You'll always look smaller to them, but there's nothing you can do about it. That's
right.
them, and this is you. You have to just keep pushing.
Good. And for all the girls out there that think, I feel like that narrative has killed a lot of dreams too, because there'll be a young girl there wanting to be a photographer. Nainga, she hears, hey, we have a sajja, that's for men, but like they need that encouragement. And that's why I do these stories to bring people like you, Monta Manyenti. Yeah, there's Ainzo Kubanga, they've never heard of a female photographer. But when they hear your story, they'll go, hey, if Bashaba was able to do it, I can do it. And I can do it. And they listen to.
Actually, there is a time I was having a talk with my dad, and he told me something that has actually pushed me through in most things, be it photography, be it business, be it relationship. If someone tells you you can't do this, or I feel like you can't actually do this, actually prove them wrong. Do it silently, and when it's out there, you just remind them. Remember when you told me I can't actually do this?
Yeah,
I did it.
that is true.
So
Yeah.
just when someone tells you you can't do this, or I don't see you doing this, prove them prove them wrong, or prove yourself right. Push yourself that you can actually do it.
That is true, and I definitely advocate for that and for everybody, anybody's dream. I really want people to push their dreams to go higher. Now we'll go into the work you do. What themes or subjects do you find more compelling to photography? Like the style of photography you do. What are things that
Mm.
you find compelling for your work? Like, is it people because you do documentary, or is it some people like nature, or what? What do you find compelling?
I I love working with people.
Okay,
Yeah, I love working with people because everyone gives you a different vibe.
I so backstory, and I've shared this when I had photographers on the podcast. Nti I wanted to be a
Mm.
photographer. Nali njagala nnyo okubeera omukubi w'ebifaananyi. Naye sagala kubeera
What
cameraman.
happened? What happened? Tell me about that.
So
What happened?
I love nature. I was more of like a nature person. Like I wanted to do nature. And
Mm.
I remember when I first came to America, I was taking pictures with my phone and like nature, trees,
Mm-hmm.
forest, hills, whatever. And I had a little Instagram page, and I still have it actually. I still have it till today. I still take some
Mm-hmm.
pictures, but like I would take a month without taking a picture. It has to capture my eyes. I'm like, that's interesting. And then I'll take a picture of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like it was just for fun. I didn't really take it as a career, and there's something else I wanted to study as a career, aviation. So that's what I
Mm.
did. But
Mm.
when I started that Instagram page, there's a friend of mine, Moxy Photography. I don't know if you know him.
Photography. I know
Moxy,
him.
I went to school with Moxy, and I have an episode with him, but it was one of those first ones in Gasina and a microphone.
You should bring him back.
I need to bring him back. Actually, I was thinking like, because I'm coming to Uganda, I might just hit him up and just do a live in person. So Moxie was following that Instagram
Mm.
page, and he shares this in his
Mm-hmm.
story, like Subigambo Byangi. Like that inspired him to
Mm.
start doing photography, and he went on to
Wow.
bring his camera and stuff. I mean, mine yakoma onga weari, but that when he saw that, he started like that, and then he went on like he added on
He
to it, and
inspired some.
yeah. So at least that's one thing I share every time I have photographer, and I love pictures. I love my pictures getting taken, and I love taking pictures. So yeah, I enjoy it when I have photographers on the podcast. But for me, I thought people abantu bazibu bakuba bifaananyi, like somebody they some pe-
Abantu bazibu. I know.
so that's why I was also venturing just nature.
It,
Yeah,
it
abantu
reminds
sibo.
it reminds me of it reminds me on let me say you're going to cover an introduction, and then yeah, there is an agreement with a client. You have to deliver the work, but there are those aunties when you reach and they're just blocking. You have to take the work, and they're just so
Tebagala back
it
my phone. Yeah,
becomes so fun. Tebagara bakwa, oh, they just want you, no, no, no. But what if the client asks me about your work, your
right.
photo, mo photo books that I'm auntie on, and then that particular auntie refused. So at times, people complicate the situation.
I wonder, kubanga ojjukira back in the day, I don't know, yeah, oba cameraman abakubanga ebifaananyi ku mbaga, when they come take pictures on the wedding, so
Mm.
they'll take like the pictures, and then they will rush to go okubifulumya. So nga wedding tenaggwa. So then they start
Ofuna
selling.
sente kati
Yeah.
kakubuulira ofuna sente. You know why?
Why?
Because they go out and then they print those photos. And imagine they've invested, let me say, like most 10,000 each photo. Okay, maybe most maybe most like 5,000, printing and then putting it on a board, a small board. But then that person will sell you that photo after the function at 30,000. So imagine if there are 100 people who have actually bought for him.
Yeah.
It's money
You
made.
get a lot of
Those
money.
cameramen
Yeah.
were the real deal. They are the real
Yeah.
deal.
Are people still doing that though? Like,
Yes, they are.
because I feel like you guys have taken over, like the new generation of photography has taken over, where you guys take pictures and you take your time editing them and printing them out, like on Instagram. Singe really no lighting, no what, pa 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 pa, do, and then he
Ate
runs.
kati no bakameramani babeera ne ka flash ka that pop up akuba photo ng'olabika n'agenda n'aprintinga. But they are there actually when you go to cover events like on a wedding. They're always there. Actually, what confuses me is how they get to know there is a function at this church,
Yeah.
and then there's a fact they are always there outside, and they always capture the moments. The moment the church is done, they're selling photos.
Yeah.
Or you've even not yet shared any photo with a client.
They call a booth out, and then they waffle a mango mango.
Makola said, by the me, I appreciate them.
The other question I wanted to ask you: how do you incorporate your Ugandan identity or culture into your work? Like in the stuff of work that you do, how do you say, I want to incorporate your culture or your country, depending, I don't know. How do you do that?
Like, how do I make, let me say, like culture? Personally, I think I incorporate that with what is happening currently. Let me say now, like the culture events throughout the year. So I'm passionate about capturing those moments because what I believe is even though we are shooting together, my story will always be different from yours. We
Yeah.
are all at the same event, but the way I capture a story will actually be different from yours. There is that event of the circumcision that happens every even year in Bukisu. So you might find a colleague of mine capturing that event to preserve or to show that the beauty of the culture, like what goes on in the event, that's his perception in shooting that. And then maybe me, I might have my own idea. So I don't know I don't know if I'm actually answering
No,
the
yeah, that,
question.
that's actually that's better than, I think your answer is better than my question, because that's exactly what I
I
was
feel
looking
like
for.
everyone has their own eye or their own, because we all have different minds. So that's why you can find like different photographers on the same event, but everyone has different work
Yeah.
because they all have a different perception of or what they want to achieve. Because a person might be capturing the beauty in the culture for the circumcision, and then for me, the fact that it's maybe the main reason why they do it is to showing the boys crossing over to manhood. Then that me now my question might be like, yes, they've crossed over, but do they actually be men
Yeah.
because they get married and everything? No, that's also another
Yeah.
story.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then there's some people who just capture facial expressions. Like, somebody might just focus on that. Like, how do people react in this type of ceremony? Or like, are
Yeah,
they
yeah.
happy? Are they
Actually,
sad?
no, that person might be looking at emotions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, like emotions.
Yeah, because you might find someone crying and someone smiling. Now that's a different emotion.
Yep.
And I think the African or the culture bit, you don't have to do much because everything is actually there. Everything is raw. You don't
Yeah.
need to change much.
Right.
You just have to capture it the way it is and
That is.
just create your own story with the images.
Yep, that is true. Is there any particular project or like photo series that I know you're proud of all the work you've done, everything you've done, but like something that stands out to you and like behind the story of that project that you did that you're really proud of?
I think it was the very first story I did.
Okay.
It was about it's about the struggles women go through to conceive. You know how most people look forward to marriage and they all grow up to, you always have that thing you're looking forward to, like in marriage. Of course, when you get married, everyone expects you to have kids, but then they don't actually know what you people who have gotten married go through to actually have those kids. Everyone is asking you about.
Amen.
Anti akugamba ozaala ddi? n'osanga uncle nga tonatuwa mwana n'ogenda ku mukolo muzaala ddi, but they don't actually know the struggles you're going through, the emotional beat, the societal torture. So that's one of the stories that stands out for me. It's still ongoing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is good. And I think, did you post some pictures on Instagram of
Yeah, but
documentary? Yeah,
sometime way back.
I think so. I don't know. I might
Way
have
back.
seen it somewhere. A lot of people don't think about that, and I went through that
No,
myself. Where
they only
my
want a kid, and then they don't. I wish to ask them, so you want me to give you a kid? Are you going to contribute on the school fees?
and that's the point. Like, you make a very good point. Like, even when they ask you for the kids, they don't know what you're going through. There's some people who are struggling with infertility. Others are struggling with whatever they're going through, and they put you under pressure to have the kid. When you have the kid,
Exactly.
like to
Uh-huh.
support or to send you some money. Hey, Bambi, use this to help you. This, if you get that child,
Exactly.
it,
I feel like that those are some of the issues that are really, really personal. And you don't have to just attack or
yeah,
bring it out in any way. There are some things which are actually personal. There are some topics which are personal to some people.
that is true. Definitely, I agree a lot. What are some of the things you consider essential for any photographer? Like, what the things they have to have? There might be items or there might be skills.
If you have a skill, that means you can work with any item.
Okay.
Imagine you don't have a camera, but then you have the skill, or maybe you have a deal. That means even though you're going to hire a Canon, you can work with it to achieve what you want. You don't segregate because you actually have the skill. And I think even the network, you have to put yourself out there. Stop thinking about competition, stop comparing yourself with other people, because you don't know what they went through to
Yeah.
get to where they are.
True. And
And there is room for everyone. There is
yeah.
room for everyone.
Actually, William said that too. There's room for everyone. Like,
Yeah,
you can tap into anything, and you're not gonna finish.
anything.
You're not gonna finish it all. But still, speaking of that, like, what are your favorite items to carry when you're going for a gig? Like, what are the essentials? Ugamba, I have to have these when I'm going.
Uh, Batteries have to be charged.
Okay.
You can easily forget a battery, reach a function, and then you have the camera and the battery is actually not there. Personally, the essentials are it's the camera body, the lenses I'm going to work with, the cards, and the batteries. Because most of my work is natural light, available light. I'm not a person of the strobes
Okay.
unless it's really needed, but I usually prefer shooting with the available light.
Have you ever had any incidents where, like, you recorded a function or event or took pictures and you found TBD, like you did not press record, or you did not, like, you somehow deleted somebody's pictures, or do you have any story like that?
No, but maybe shooting at a wrong event.
Oh, tell me about that.
We had reached, it was in a village. We had reached, let me say that there were two events in that location. So I reached at an event, the first event with my team, said doing deco, but then realized the names are actually different from the people we knew supposed to be there. That's when I actually called the bride, and the bride was like, "No, that's a neighbor's event. You have to come this side." So by the time we were rushing there, the event was actually like 30 minutes or 40 minutes into it. So
Wow,
yeah.
that's even more funnier
But
than
I appreciate that client. She actually understood,
yeah.
and I really appreciated her.
That's crazy. That's funny. How
Yeah.
do you go by creating your relationships with your subject? Like, so when I'm doing a podcast, the
Mm,
first I dedicate my first minute to make my guests feel comfortable, like feel at home, because that's then we're gonna
mm,
have a good conversation. Because there's some people who I've hosted that I've never been on a podcast before. They don't like talking to people, but they want to do it. So you have to
Yes.
make those people feel comfortable, so then you can have a good conversation. Ngate wali kutia. How do you
Mm.
make your subjects when you're going to work with them, especially documentaries? You're going to be taking different pictures. How do you deal with them to make your work come out the way you want?
It's actually similar to the way you do it. When you go out there, you don't have to bring the camera out there and there.
Mm.
You have to create that relationship with the client or with the subjects you're going to be with.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, if you're to notice, most of the documentaries, it's very rare for them to be a one day. They're usually like 2 days or three or a week. So you have to plan how long your assignment is going to be. So you give them at least 1 hour. Get to know the client, get to know how they feel, get to know, introduce, let them get to also know you.
Mm-hmm.
So there will always be that relationship, that bond.
Yeah.
So that by the time you're actually removing the camera to take, they're not shy
Mm-hmm.
because you already know how they will react. They
Uh,
are comfortable with you.
what has been your favorite place to work in Uganda? Like your favorite, you say, oh, when I went to this place, it was amazing. I liked the time when I went. Like, what's your favorite place, and what
Mm.
made it be good?
We are here suffering, looking for tomato sauce. But you're there keeping Chipoli in the case.
You
Then
know,
we also used to leave you to suffer with your own things.
and there are some kids who took them back home. You know, nga they take their eats back home,
Exactly.
or but some of them like go bad at the end of the time. Nga, because they go mold, nga you can't even eat them. Like,
And you can't.
wow.
Man,
If
there's
I,
some things we have to put instill in our kids when they're young.
yeah,
Sharing is a very big thing.
that is true. Yeah, sharing is a big thing, and sharing is caring. Can you share any experience where your work has had a positive impact and brought change in your community or in your life? Like how photography has helped you as a person or as a community, or it could be anything.
As a person, personally, my work has been exhibited with the help from Uganda Photo Press Awards. I know William also talked about
Mm-hmm.
them. They are really, really helping photographers. They are really, it's, how do you call it? Exposure bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because with them you can never know what is coming through. So personally, they've really pushed me through my photography journey. Then the work itself, it has helped communicate different issues that are affecting people,
Mm-hmm.
or those untold stories that no one actually shares.
Yeah.
Yeah, because some people don't. Now that project I told you, I don't get faces to be shown
Okay.
because most people are not comfortable with sharing because it's a personal story.
Mm-hmm.
So you can never know who is actually going to read that story because they might be going through the same thing and they think they're actually alone. So it's helping shed more life, shed more light, giving comfort to whoever is out there.
Okay.
So yeah, that's it.
That is good. The especially like how you said it helps to share or pass on the information, or it's like a platform to bring out these things that people don't know, what people are going through. It's a storytelling and telling stories, and I like that because that reminds me of the reason why I started the podcast to myself is like to put out these stories that people
Mm,
don't know, people to know that nothing we have things going on. Can you imagine? I talk about this a lot that even in America, like we can say Uganda and Jabantu, they're but you get a bunch of Muluzung, like illiterate, not illiterate, but like uninformed. They don't
mm,
know. There's a lot of
mhm,
people like that in
mhm,
America. However much it's a developed country, there's a lot of people
mm,
who have a wrong narrative of Uganda. You know, like so there are some people who still believe like oh people in Africa live in huts. You know, there's some people who have the
right.
narrative like people in Africa don't have cars. And they're in America, so we'll be in Uganda thinking, "Bananga bantu ba America bagezi, baina bichi, baina bichi." But they still that group of people who still think like that, you know. But when
Right.
if somebody taps into my podcast and they listen, I'm interviewing a photographer, they're talking about the same camera that the Americans use. It's the same camera Bashaba uses
Mhm,
in Uganda. So like we do have those things too. Like, you know, it's not like back. But these people, they're still stuck in
Mm.
Idi Amin, Manya, Stone Age period, this Manya,
Like Idi
Kinas.
Amin should come back.
Bulgari.
Idi Amin should come back.
Yeah,
I wish he could,
yeah,
except the religious bit and everything, but we would be very far. These
that's
roads
true.
would not, I think, would not have very many potholes like we do. Not in a bad way.
Yeah,
But he was a good president.
yeah. I read about him, and yeah, I think he had some good things. He had issues. Anybody, but your mind, every don't maybe like
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Then
What?
there they would be hearing from him a lot.
Yeah. What what advice would you give to an aspiring female photographer in Uganda who is looking to enter this field? What are the good things and what challenges should they look out for?
The good things, people are willing to help if you ask for help. The challenging bits, most photographers are not so social. Very few of them are social. So to be in this, you actually have to learn how to talk to the people around you because you never know who is going to help out in any way. So if you're starting out, just put yourself out there, just try to learn different things, just create friends with those photographers you actually look up to, have a mentor to take you through. Yeah, because a mentor will guide you on very many things. There are some 5 things I think someone needs to look at. It's what you know, that's your knowledge. You have to do some research, what you're venturing in. Do you want to do documentary? Like finding a niche. So you can start doing everything, shooting almost everything. Then you find something you're comfortable with. Then what you can do, that's a skill. So what you've gotten knowledge about, you master it. You get a skill, you get skilled in it. Then what you have, the resources you have, be it financial, be it equipment, you use what you have. You don't have to hire, or you don't have to get a full frame, yet you're actually starting. You can start with a crop sensor as you grow. Then what the world thinks of you, your reputation. Where do you want to see yourself? What are your plans? What is your goal? Your friends. So you build on your reputation also according to that. So there are some of the things that have helped me grow, and there are some of the things that are actually still helping me grow.
You talked about photographers being introvert or like not very social, and that reminded me when I had shot by Mo Buscago in the first
Mm.
sessions. But photographer papa be wombe. Even Nyaika, you see Nyaika and China Dalu, like Nyaika is stubborn. When I was interviewing him on the podcast, Balange ye wombe ko inzo ga Nyaika na one Dalu. He's and even William, like William, when I first talked to him, he was this humble guy. He just talks. Ga ye wombe ka never mulaba outside world. You look, nigga, what's wrong with these photography people? Like when I'm wombe
I
ka.
think you just have to get used to someone or to
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Because when you get used to someone or something, there is a way you relax internally and physically.
Yeah.
So you calm down, and now your real self comes out.
Yeah, yeah. But I love that. I love photographers like you guys. The level of your understanding and the way you interpret things, the way you see life is different from the normal people, and I respect that about you and how you can change to different environments and different things. Adjust that is great. How do you balance the creative aspects of photography with the business side of being a professional photographer? Like, how do you choose to when I'm doing this for a hobby and I'm doing this for work, I'm doing this for myself?
Um, I think it starts out with what you actually want,
Yeah.
because most people start photography for fun or more of a hobby, but then it grows, and then people will recommend you to other people, and then you see money starting to come in. So now, like people who do documentaries, most of their personal projects are funded by the work they actually do,
Yeah.
because you might have like a personal project you want to work on, but then you don't have enough funds. But then if you did like a documentary with maybe an NGO, that money that you saved is actually going to cover some of the part for this personal story. So I think it's more of planning what to do when.
Do you think, and this is a question that just came up in my head, do you think being a photographer has to come from passion, or omuntu ajasobolokera enkyanaga manze manyi okuba ebifaananyi, let me just go do it? Or how do you say that? Like, does it have to be a passion, or anybody can do it?
I think it all comes with an eye and the passion of. I think everything is combined in, because you might find a person running a photography business when he has nothing to do with photography, or he even doesn't know how to hold a camera. But then the people who actually work for him are professional photographers. But then the name actually out there, maybe they know that person, the boss. So there, it's very hard to judge.
Yeah. So Bashaba, we've come to almost the end of this recording, but
That was quick.
I have 3 questions. I still have some more questions, so it's Nabakuta, that I want to ask you. One of the questions is,
Okay.
what's a life lesson like you've learned in life to this point?
To this point, I feel like there is a place that you yourself can feel and no one else can feel. And there is something only you can do and no one else can do. So you have to do that, or you have to maybe find. Most people call it your purpose. You have to find your purpose. Because if you find your purpose, everything gets easy. Because if you're supposed to do something, even though I come to try to do it, I won't be as perfect as you who is supposed to do it. So there is a place that you are to feel, no one else can feel, something that you are to do that no one else can do.
That's perfect.
So the moment I mastered, or I'm still trying to master it, but it has actually helped me a lot.
Yeah. What gets you excited about life?
Life itself.
Yeah.
Waking up and actually have air in my lungs and I'm breathing. That's something I get excited about.
That's
Because I don't know who has actually passed on the previous night, but the fact that I'm actually awake today, that's a real motivation for me.
I need to shout out your earrings. I love them, representing Africa. Yeah.
Thank you.
They're amazing. The final question is a signature question on the podcast. I asked it everybody that I get to have here. Who would you like to see on this podcast next as a guest? And you're gonna help me recommend me to that person.
Should I only give you one? Because I have like 5 and actually can get them all to
Let's get the 5.
There is Esther Mbabazi. She's a top known female photographer, documentary.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to give you a list of first female photographers.
Let's do it.
Since you've hosted very many male, let's have
Can't
some
you
female
use
in
it?
the first.
Can't you use it in female? Yeah, I like that.
So there is Esther Mbabazi. There is Zahara Abdul. There is Miriam Watsemba. There is Aja Nalwada. And then the others I would recommend, there is Jumba Martin. I don't know if you know him.
I think somebody else mentioned his name. I don't know him personally.
There is Jumba Martin. There is Gio. Now, Gio usually, if you've seen Nyaika and William, Gio is also part of that. He also does almost the same thing. It's called Yoti Gilbert. Yeah, those are some of the few I can recommend.
That's amazing.
There is also Terra. It's called Terra's Photography.
Okay. So yeah, you will connect me to those people and then we'll have them on the podcast. So once again, thank you very much for your time. Hey there, this is Bonnie Kibuka, the host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching and listening to my podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with a friend and recommend somebody to this podcast. Don't forget to leave a feedback on this podcast because that's how we grow. And also don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. Join us on our social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So we'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much and be blessed.